the one and only podcast by a blind wrestling fan.
Wrestling in the dark!
Hey up guys, welcome to WITD, where it's time to talk about the 27th of May 2020 edition of NXT. Let's jump right in with the hot bits. Number 1. Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher square off this week in the main event in the first ever, but hopefully not the only ever, NXT Pit Fight. It's knockout or tap out only. There's no ropes, there's no turnbuckles, just a cage and some scaffolding to scrap in. I enjoyed the shit out of this match, guys, I'm not gonna lie. Personally, I'm a big fan of a knockout finish to a match. I think that it adds a sense of urgency to everything that's going on if you know that this match can just end in an instant. I guess that's the case with pinfalls, but I feel like it always takes a little bit of a lead up to a pinfall, whereas when you know that this match can just end with a strike, it just adds that sense of urgency, and I was digging this from start to finish. Riddle gets a double leg takedown early. He delivers some ground and pound. Not long afterwards, he kicks Tim's face right into the cage. Tim loses 2 of his teeth. The medics check on him and they rule that he's fit to continue. Riddle's trying for the double wrist lock, but Thatcher nails him with the European uppercut. He takes control. He ends up getting a belly-to-belly suplex, sending Riddle into the cage. He traps Riddle's leg for a submission, kneeing him in the ribs while he's got it locked in. He ends up getting a butterfly suplex, floats over, tries for the crossface, but Riddle reverses and tries for the bromission. Thatcher tries for a triangle armbar, but Riddle deadlifts him to get out of it. They end up fighting up and onto one of these raised up scaffolding platforms, and unfortunately for Tim, things don't go too well for him. Despite managing to get some offense while he's up there, in the end, Riddle hits a ripcord knee and sends Tim crashing to the canvas below before hitting a floating bro. But the finish comes not too long afterwards as Tim locks in the rear naked choke. Riddle tries to stay alive, but Tim keeps it locked in, and eventually Riddle loses by technical knockout, and all the while he's making these awesome choking noises to sell it, and it just felt really real and brutal, and I absolutely loved it. The word right now is that Riddle's on his way out of NXT. He's due to debut on SmackDown real soon, which means that this could very well be the last match that he wrestles in NXT, at least for a decent while. And that's a shame, but if he has to go out, then this is the way I'd like to see him go out, in a really memorable match that sets up a concept that I'd really like to see repeated. Not all the time, but I think these pit fights could actually lend a really, really good level of drama to a feud, and it also gives NXT something fresh, a new stipulation that they can add to the list that they use right now, and I just think that this was a really, really good way for him to go out. So, am I heartbroken that he has to leave? Yes, but luckily I've started watching the main roster recently anyway, so he's not going to completely disappear. Be utterly changed from what I like? Probably. Disappear? No. Love this match. I gave it a solid 5 out of 6. Number 2. One of the biggest questions going into this week is whether Drake Maverick could keep his career alive. After a dramatic 3-way tie in the Cruiserweight Championship tournament, this week we get a triple threat between Jake Atlas, Kushida and Drake Maverick to see who will go on to face El Hijo Del Fantasma in the finals. Tom Phillips almost screwed this up right from the start by saying that it was a no count out, no submission match, but he just barely manages to scrape it together and say the right thing, calling it no count out, no disqualification. The fact that Tom Phillips shares his initials with toilet paper says just about everything that I need to say about Phillips as a commentator. This was a pretty good match, and to the credit, I really wasn't sure what was going to happen. I could see all three of these guys winning. Kushida would have been a good choice. I could see a situation where Jake Atlas turned a bit nasty and screwed Drake out of it. I could see Drake going forward, and I just really didn't know what was going to happen. I appreciate that about this tournament. Each man got a time to shine and got at least one big move for themselves. Drake got a missile dropkick, Kushida got a tornado DDT, transfers straight into the cross armbreaker, but Drake escapes from that. Atlas gets an inverted suplex, but Drake breaks up the cover. Atlas gets a rainbow DDT, but Kushida pulls him to the outside, and then the finish sees Kushida lock Drake in the Sakurama lock, but Atlas comes and breaks it up. He suffers the impact of an arm breaker and then gets locked in the cross arm breaker, but Drake comes over, drapes his arm over Atlas and pins him. And now we're getting a Drake Maverick in the final against El Hijo Del Fantasma. It's a shame that this tournament's almost over. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I definitely think that it's helped to shine a spotlight on all of the guys involved in this. Tony Nese, Akira Tozawa, Atlas, Drake, Kushida, Fantasma, all of them look better going into this. I'm invested and want to see more from all of them, so I think they've drawn a really good job, and now I just don't know what they're going to do. I really don't. I didn't think there was any chance that Drake could win this at the beginning. I thought that he'd get a little bit of the way through and then have a heartbreaking exit, but he's now in the finals and it could really go either way. I do think that Fantasma will end up winning, but it could easily end up being the opposite, and if that happens, it'll be such a feel-good moment that I really won't mind. This has been a job well done. Number 3. For what feels like the first time in forever, this week we got a segment with William Regal on TV, granted by video call, but considering that I can't see him, that's not that much different for me, other than his voice being a little bit tinnier. He's got his work cut out for him this week though, because a very unhappy Adam Cole wants a video call negotiation. Cole isn't very good at negotiating though. He's the typical high school bully that doesn't realise that the person he's talking to can make his life an absolute misery, and he shows Regal no respect during this promo whatsoever. He plays the oblivious heel great, saying some stuff about Dream that can easily be applied to him, not that he'd ever admit that. Cole says that he should have been celebrating this week, celebrating the fact that he is the longest reigning NXT champion in history, but that celebration had to be put on ice because of Velveteen Dream. Regal tells Cole that he's got no time for whining and to cut to the point. Cole makes a joke about keeping it simple so that it doesn't go over Regal's head. He says that the Undisputed Era deserve a fair chance at the Tag Team Championships because last time it wasn't fair. They had to take on a fake team that they didn't even want to fight in the first place. He says that he wants to make sure that the Dream can't step foot in his ring or his business ever again. Regal says that Dream's probably getting a title shot at TakeOver in Your House, and Cole asks him where is all of this charity coming from. He says that Dream is out of his mind, he's self-absorbed, he's obsessed with himself. He has a personal spotlight that illuminates him in the ring while he's on his personal couch. It's all me, blah blah blah. And Regal says that they're both pretty similar people, they both demand the spotlight, to which Cole says that that's like comparing a Lamborghini to a toy car. He says that the Undisputed Era have been the cornerstone of NXT and they've made William Regal look very good. Regal asks Cole if he even knows how to negotiate. He says they're supposed to find common ground, but apparently Cole is just set on acting like a baby. Cole's not impressed with this joke and says that must be the best joke that you've done since you were trying to be a man's man. And then he says that he'll keep it simple. He wants Regal to say that when he beats Dream at TakeOver in Your House, then Dream will never, ever get a shot at the NXT title again while Cole is the champion. Regal agrees and says that he will find a special location worthy of the NXT Championship. I'm not gonna lie, I'm worried. I feel like special location translates to we're gonna do a cinematic match, which also translates to fuck you Mason, we're not gonna do commentary because we hate blind people. Honestly, it's becoming more and more common. The last couple of pay-per-views have all had these cinematic matches, and whilst I appreciate that this will be awesome for people who can still see, it sucks donkey dick for me, because I'm gonna end up missing out on what could be the last match that Cole wrestles as NXT champion, and I love Adam Cole. Is one of the things that brought me to NXT in the first place, and if that ends up being the case, I'm going to be really, really disappointed. Loved this segment, thought Cole performed perfectly, it was good to see Regal, but I am very, very worried and just at least a little bit pissed off. Number 4. It wasn't a good week for the Garganos this week. Mia Yim and Keith Lee took some nasty shots at them during a parody version of the Dinner with Gargano segments that we've been getting. To start it off, the Garganos come out and the NXT crowd are booing them. Johnny tells them, "You've got a company to work for because of me." He says that the NXT locker room is full of great talent, or at least it's full of a couple of great hands. He says that he wants to give opportunities to people that deserve them. He got his shots and he's the face of NXT, so now he wants to help the next generation. He's set to face Adrian Alonis in the first ever Johnny Gargano Invitational. He acts like he's going to be sportsmanlike, offers the handshake, sucker punches the guy, and then starts laying in the right hands. Alonis gets just a whiff, a teeny tiny little bit of offense, but then Gargano hits a super kick and locks him in the Gargano escape. As far as a parody segment like this goes, one of two things usually ends up happening. It's either pretty entertaining or it goes horribly wrong and it's terrible and cringy. For some reason this actually ended up being pretty entertaining. I think the fact that it was purposefully bad and it didn't feel too much like Mia and Keith were trying too hard actually ended up adding to it, and it was just, like I said, a pretty entertaining segment. Mia at the beginning says that she likes to kick little guys in skinny jeans in the face. Keith asks her what she thinks of the dinner setup and she tells him that it's cheap and tacky, like the Garganos. Then she does the dark, brooding portion of the segment where they talk a little bit of trash like the Garganos do. She says, "I'm Candice LeRae, I'm an angry pixie who don't know how to cut my hair, and I'm 5'7" and I think I'm a pit bull." She gets Keith to try the same thing. He's not too into it at first, thinks it's a little bit weird, doesn't get it, but he does end up trying in the end. He says, "I'm Johnny Gargano and I've got something in common with my action figures. We're the same size. In the mornings, I spend more time with myself in the mirror than I do with my wife." Then Tegan comes in. She brings in pizza because Mia didn't cook the meal, she got takeout, just like Candice does. For some reason, Tegan's eaten quite a lot of the pizza and there's only one slice left. In the end, they say that they're going to make the Garganos pay. Honestly hope this stays a one-time deal. I don't want to see it become a regular thing. I don't need to see them ripping on this Dinner with the Garganos every week. This was perfect, it was entertaining, they had a couple of good quips, and I don't think they should run it into the ground. Like I said, pretty funny, and I really love that line about her being an angry little pixie that don't know how to cut her hair. Number 5. Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley were set to take on Charlotte Flair and a mystery opponent in a tag match. Of course, Charlotte comes out, says that she doesn't need a partner and she'll fight both women together, saying that she'll show them what a real, hard-working woman looks like. She kicks out of a 619, she kicks out of a Riptide, she kicks out of a Moonsault, and in the end she reverses a Cloverleaf into the figure 4, into the figure 8, and she picks up the win. I'm just kidding, but you wouldn't have been surprised, would you? This actually ended up being a pretty good match and I really enjoyed it. Considering that Charlotte was in it and I don't usually enjoy Charlotte matches, the fact that Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley were in it really managed to save it for me. as well as the person that actually ended up being Charlotte's partner, which was someone who is arguably even more desperate for the spotlight, Chelsea Green. Of course, Charlotte does her best to avoid getting in the ring, and Chelsea ends up doing a lot of hard work and ends up getting beaten up a lot. Early on, Rhea Ripley's too distracted by Charlotte and it leaves her open, and Chelsea manages to get a big chop on her. Io tags in and she starts stomping at Chelsea. She tries to hit the Tiger Feint 619, but Chelsea dumps her to the outside. She hits a tope, but her momentum doesn't last long because Io hits a diving plancha and sends Chelsea into the barricade. The heels double team Io, but she manages to fight back, gets a crossbody and tags to Rhea. Rhea comes in on fire and starts brutalising Chelsea Green with vicious knees. She gets a snapmare dropkick combo, hits her with an electric chair facebuster, but she kicks out. Io and Charlotte end up on the inside together. Io hits a Hurricane Rana on Charlotte and follows it with a double knees. Not too long afterwards, she rolls Charlotte up and delivers a double stomp. She gets that Tiger Feint kick, but in the end, Chelsea Green sacrifices herself, taking the bullet for Charlotte, and in the resulting chaos, Io and Ripley get sent into each other. Ripley gets sent crashing into the barricade, and Charlotte manages to pin Io Shirai with her feet on the ropes. I actually really liked all this and I thought that it worked really well. Chelsea Green trying to latch onto Charlotte for a bit of spotlight worked really well. Charlotte allowing Chelsea Green to latch onto her so that she has someone to use works really well. I love that Io and Ripley just can't really work together. The end will see just a little bit more tension going into the triple threat, which is already got a lot of tension going into it. Chelsea being in the ring with all three big stars in this match was great for her. Really raises her stock, makes Robert Stone look a little bit better because he actually managed to get her a decent match for once. So yeah, this actually ended up being a really good match, and I don't usually say that when Charlotte's in a match. Honourable mentions. Imperium say they've taken over the tag team division. They're not giving the titles up anytime soon. They set the rules, they set the pace. They call Birch and Lorcan a disgrace to the sacred ground of Imperium. Birch and Lorcan have a promo of their own later on. Birch says Lorcan hits like a hammer. Lorcan says Birch hits like a brick. They say fighting each other was like looking in the mirror. They're the same, only Birch is the more handsome version. They say they've been good over the last couple of years, but recently they've been on a roll, and now they're going to take the titles at TakeOver in Your House. Finn says that if Damian Priest wants to live forever, then he's not going the right way about it. Finn's 20 years towards eternity and Priest has just been treading water. He says that he's not Priest's lifeline, he's going to bury him. With Scarlett at ringside, Tommaso Ciampa has a squash match against Leon Ruff. Ruff gets a bit of offense in but ends up getting crotched on the top rope. Then Ciampa blows a kiss to Scarlett and delivers the fairy tale ending. Post-match, Karrion Kross says that he agrees with Ciampa. Ciampa's special, TakeOver's special, and at TakeOver he's going to make Ciampa feel something that he's never felt before and tells him to fall and pray. I hate the fact that it's fall and pray. It should have been fall and pray. It's just what it sounds like. Finally, Shotzi Blackheart takes on Raquel Gonzalez, and this was a pretty decent match. I'm really into Shotzi right now, especially after a really cool promo last week. She puts in a scrappy performance early on. She manages to get a rolling forearm and a question mark kick, but eventually Dakota Kai decides that she wants to play GTA and decides, fuck it, I'm gonna hijack Shotzi's tank. Tegan Knox comes out to help because she understands what the term personal property means. The tide turns momentarily in Raquel's favour. She gets a power slam. She delivers a pendulum backbreaker, but Shotzi kicks out of both. Shotzi manages to roll up Gonzalez at one point. She hits a dive and hurts her own back, taking out both heels. Then in the end, Candice comes out. This allows Dakota to get involved without the ref seeing, and Gonzalez hits a powerbomb, wiping out Shotzi. Poor Shotzi, can't wait till she starts getting a bit of a winning streak, to be honest. All in all then, I really enjoyed this episode of NXT. It wasn't the best episode ever, but it most certainly wasn't boring. There wasn't anything to turn your nose up at, and I really don't feel like there was much fat that needed cutting away, if any at all. If you've got any thoughts on this week's NXT, or this episode of Wrestling in the Dark, you know where the comments section is, or you can find me on Twitter at Mason_WITD. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, or else have a good one.